The west of North America is full of amazing contrast. It stretches from the pretentious world of the Hollywood glitterati to a landscape that is both natural and spectacular. This journey features some unique and impressive natural monuments, such as the historic rock settlements of the Native American Indians, and fascinating salt deserts and volcanic areas. We begin our journey in San Diego, California, the most populated state in the USA, the Promised Land. This coastal city that enjoys a wonderful climate is for some California's southernmost city, for others the northernmost city in Mexico. Once a lively dockland area, Seaport Village is an important landmark. Numerous Mexican hacienda-style restaurants entice exhausted shoppers to enjoy a leisurely meal. Ideally, the whole day should be set aside for a visit to Balboa Park that is located northeast of downtown. The Panama, California exhibition features both a fantasy city and a beautiful park. The impressive focal point of this fascinating park is this huge well with its towering water fountains. 6 kilometers north of downtown is Old Town. Some of the city's oldest buildings are situated here. At the beginning of the 19th century, this building was built close to the city's first mission station. The San Diego Zoo is world famous. By way of a large open-topped double-decker bus, visitors are treated to a good view of the animals and their living quarters. The nearby SeaWorld features fascinating performances such as those of the enchanting orca. The tranquility of the underwater world can also be enjoyed here. In San Diego, the American way of life is flavored with the lifestyle of Mexico. Los Angeles is synonymous with Hollywood. It was here that this amazing city attained worldwide fame. The Sidewalk of Fame is covered with brass stars that bear the names of famous celebrities, both past and present. A part of Hollywood mythology is also the legendary Mann's Chinese Theatre, Sid Grauman's famous old premiere cinema. It's not known how Grauman hit upon the idea of using famous hand and footprints in this way. It's always been a great honor for those who were chosen for this tribute in cement. Everything here is different, including the cemetery of the famous. And one could almost sit and relax here if it wasn't a realm of the dead. It was not just Eddie Murphy's hilarious Beverly Hills Cop films that made the celebrity suburb of Beverly Hills so well known. It's long been a star-studded location. Rodeo Drive is the most exclusive shopping mile in the world. A generous credit card limit is required for the 4 blocks between Santa Monica and Wilshire Boulevard. To the west of the Broadway is downtown, a modern district with huge skyscrapers and shining steel and glass facades, a futuristic city center. Universal Studios is the largest and most active film and television studio in the world, as well as a popular day out for the family. It's one of the most successful amusement parks in the USA. Since its inauguration in 1955, Disneyland has become a worldwide phenomenon. Walt Disney's famous characters greet their guests. Venice Beach is the place to be at weekends, And those who perform at Muscle Beach never fail to surprise LA's local population. The Santa Monica Pier was built in 1908. Malibu stretches north along the coast from Santa Monica. Around 12,000 people live here. The villas of the rich and famous are mostly hidden away in the canyons set inland from the coast. All this is California, where earthquakes and joie de vivre are a way of life. The dream road of the world leads further north. It passes dense vegetation and then across a rocky coastal landscape. Winding its way along a spectacular section of the Pacific coast, Highway 1 between Los Angeles and San Francisco is one of the most beautiful coastal roads in the world. And when the landscape is cloaked in mist, it takes on yet another intriguing dimension. Of course, it's always possible that it could rain, but even so, the famous song is forever optimistic. San Francisco, the most fascinating of the USA's great cities. Here the tramcars are pulled up by a subterranean rope across the city's hills. And there's one street that can only be traveled downhill. Plus, there's a rock island in the bay that once contained the most secure prison in the USA. In 1963, Alcatraz prison was closed due to financial reasons, but today it's a protected monument. The financial district is also known as the Wall Street of the West. The Transamerica Pyramid is now the city's most famous landmark. Without Chinatown, San Francisco would be unimaginable. This exotic world far away from its homeland is the largest Chinese settlement outside China. The Haas Lilienthal house was built by a Bavarian grocer and survived the city's great earthquake. The painted ladies are wooden masterpieces that date back to the turn of the century. A complex in the style of a Roman palace was constructed for the Panama Pacific exhibition. French Renaissance was the model for today's City Hall. And located in Golden Gate Park, this Japanese tea garden is a replica of its counterpart in Kyoto. Visitors to Fisherman's Wharf are greeted with the aroma of sea air and fresh fish, and the sound of seagulls fills the air. And this is also the beginning of Pier 39. Each year, its shops, restaurants, and amazing sea lions attract no less than 10 million visitors. The Golden Gate Bridge spans majestically above the entrance to the bay. It's difficult to believe that this city lives under the constant threat of yet another devastating earthquake. The steepest rocks, the largest monoliths, the most wonderful views, all those superlatives stand for the Yosemite National Park. This impenetrable landscape is full of huge granite mountains, over the steep slopes of which torrents of roaring water plunge 1,000 meters into the valleys of the last ice age. The park is situated in the center of California's Sierra Nevada. Throughout each season of the year, over 4 million tourists travel here from all over the globe. This is the awesome sight of the world's second highest waterfall, the Yosemite. It's a majestic example of nature's glorious power. The park is a paradise for hikers, and various paths that lead to the waterfalls cut through the slopes of the forest. In In the midst of the roaring waters thousands of years ago, the Miwok Indians believed this to be a sacred and mystic place. The region's amazing abundance of water nourishes its prolific vegetation. The wild and turbulent water plunges into the depths below, a natural performance of incredible dramatic splendor. Death Valley covers an area of around 10,000 square kilometers. Approximately a fifth of this region is located at or below sea level. During the gold rush of the 19th century, it was through here that thousands of pioneers took a shortcut while journeying west. They eventually arrived in a valley that offered no further way forward. Weakness, hunger, and lack of water combined to create the name of this treacherous valley. As with the Sahara, to the west of Death Valley, sand dunes extend for nearly 40 square kilometers, with temperatures of up to 40 degrees Celsius in the scant shade. High above the valley, there are vantage points that provide a good all-round view of the incredible scenery, such as Zabriskie Point and Dante's View. Radiant sunbeams transform these arid and eroded formations of sand and stone into magnificent theatrical wings on a huge and natural stage. Reno, the biggest little city in the world, is located in the west of Nevada and is a smaller version of Las Vegas. Here also, gambling and entertainment are available both day and night. Hotels and casinos dominate the streets of this lively city that has a population of around 130,000. In 1931, the Nevada legislature legalized gambling on the understanding that part of the profits would go towards the city's education system. A number of famous hotel names originated here prior to being copied by Las Vegas in even bolder form. Circus and Flamingos, to name but two. From having been a boomtown during the time of the gold rush, today Reno has become a modern city. Las Vegas, a mirage in the desert. Awake day and night, the entertainment capital of the world. It's a metropolis set in a desert, and Paris in Las Vegas even features the River Seine. It's easy to walk under the Eiffel Tower, stroll along Parisian boulevards, or enjoy the delights of authentic French cuisine. New York's skyline dominates the scene, particularly the Statue of Liberty. But it's difficult to believe that it's a facade of a castle. A double-looping, screeching roller coaster whirls above the heads of shrieking onlookers and over the residential quarters of New York. The MGM Lion guards one of the largest hotels in the world with over 5,000 rooms. The multimillionaire Kirk Kerkorian paid billions of dollars for this vast world of adventure, which comprises a theme park that covers more than 134,000 square meters. Beyond the facade of a castle of the Middle Ages is the Excalibur with over 4,000 rooms. Named after the magic sword that was embedded in stone, which only the legendary future ruler of England was able to withdraw. He was King Arthur. The White Castle is his kingdom, and here, kitsch reigns supreme. The Bellagio is a return to the exclusive nature of the casino hotels of the past. Here, luxury is at its zenith. An investment of $1.8 billion speaks for itself. The spectacle performed in front of the hotel is quite incredible. Extraordinary choreography unites both music and water fountains in movement. And here is ancient Rome, Caesar's palace, where marble and gold are in abundance. Guarded by a sphinx that stretches its paws out towards the strip, a pyramid looms above the desert paradise, a visit to ancient Egypt, the Luxor Hotel. The Mirage was one of the city's first fantasy resorts and has more than 3,000 rooms. Waterfalls plunge down artificial rock walls. White tigers greet visitors, and when entering the hotel, visitors walk through a realistic tropical forest. Directly opposite is another theme park, the Venetian. Campanile, the Doge's Palace, Rialto Bridge, Canale Grande, and an array of gondolas. These marvelous illusions and gigantic buildings are like a film set, always offering something new. Who knows what all this will lead to? Entertainment knows no limits, especially in Las Vegas. Lake Mead contains 35 billion cubic meters of water. It was created as a result of a dam that was built on the Colorado River. With its diverse species of fish, it's extremely popular with fishing enthusiasts. The construction of the Hoover Dam and the subsequent creation of Lake Mead had already been decided in 1922, nearly 10 years before the dam was actually built. The top of the Hoover Dam, which is only 14 meters wide, extends for more than 380 meters. A truly magnificent technical achievement. This world-famous dam was built in less than 5 years and was completed in 1935. (1,600 meters deep and about 16 kilometers long. The most colossal gorge in the world, the Grand Canyon. The site of this gigantic natural wonder is the climax of any trip to Arizona. Each year, around 5 million visitors come to see this, the 8th wonder of the world. 35 million years ago, massive subterranean forces created the Rocky Mountains and, at the same time, the high and extensive Kaibab Plateau. About 10 million years ago, erosion caused huge masses of stone to cut deep into the landscape, and thus the river system of the Colorado gradually sprang to life. The unrestrained elemental forces of rain, wind, snow, and severe extremes of temperature weathered the canyon walls and widened the gorge and also made it deeper. The various colored layers of mineral deposits do much to reveal the geological history of the region. But the relatively recent past of dinosaurs and mammals is not so clear. The view from the edge of the canyon down to the river is like peering into the history of the Earth. The steady process of erosion continues, and the canyon grows ever deeper. For 100 years, scientists from all over the world have investigated evidence that a gigantic meteorite crashed here, leaving behind it a huge crater, the meteor crater. It's believed that around 20,000 years ago, a massive orbiting rock smashed into the Earth at this point, and from the energy created by the impact, exploded and totally disintegrated. There are no more than about 30 meteorite craters on our planet. The actual size of the cosmic object which landed here will probably never be known. Within an area of 160 kilometers, all life here was totally destroyed. Located in northwest Arizona is a 378 square kilometer national park, the splendid Petrified Forest. The surrounding colorful desert shimmers in all the colors of the rainbow. The sand's mineral content mainly consists of volcanic ash. The color of the sand indicates metal deposits. It's thought that around 225 million years ago, this was a swampland surrounded by high-reaching valleys. Rivers transported dead trees and animal carcasses in volcanic ash-enriched mud until the water evaporated and the rivers dried up. The trees then lay sealed in the mud. Silicon dioxide was forced into the rotting wood and reached such a high concentration that it crystallized into quartz. So fossilized trees were created. Iron oxide and other minerals created colorful variations which sometimes surfaced above the Earth's crust. But most of the trees remain buried up to 90 meters deep. A petrified log spans the 12-meter-wide canyon like a bridge. Many believe that the Canyon de Cherry is the most beautiful in Canyonland. Although not as famous as its bigger brother in the northwest, it's certainly of equal beauty. In their cultural heyday, around 1,000 years ago, the Anasazi built their living quarters into the rock walls of the canyon. And from here also, the canyon's inhabitants suddenly moved on to the settlements of Mesa Verde and Montezuma Castle. The Navajo Territory is the largest Indian reservation in the United States, and with a population of nearly 200,000, is one of the most highly populated in the USA. In 200 BC, these newly developed cultures brought new life to these arid regions by the introduction of irrigation systems for cultivation of the land. They used the natural environment, sheltered caves in natural rock that were only accessible by way of simple wooden ladders. With these, unwanted visitors were kept out. From about 500 AD, the Anasazi began to construct cliff buildings from loam, with roofs containing wooden beams covered with a layer of earth. The two crucial factors which dominated the life of the Indians were the climate and the land. They adapted themselves to their environment. Knowledge of weather patterns as well as the flora and fauna was vital and characterized their way of life. The earth was the mother, the heavens the father. Nature itself has created some bizarre and artistic shapes. A sculpture formed from undulating waves of stone, Antelope Canyon. From the surface, a gaping crevice is the only means of access, tempting the curious to enter. Assisted by man, erosion has created a natural labyrinth. A palette of color teases the eye, from the apricot hues of fine-textured sand to various dark layers of stone. The rusty red colors are the result of oxidization. For thousands of years, the water in Antelope Creek has eaten into the caves and crevices of fossilized sand dunes. Here, most of the ghost riverbed is covered with sand. Little water flows. The shapes and colors created by erosion unite in abstract patterns. Here, nature has created a fantastic world of towers, caves, gateways, and shimmering rock surfaces. The walls feel smooth and grainy, and occasionally sand trickles down from above. Like a vertical mouth with red brownstone lips and a 30-meter-high keyhole, the rocks open up and lead into the awe-inspiring semi-darkness of impressive cave formations. As if filtered through the stone, light shines faintly through a crevice. Flickering yellow, it spreads out 100-fold and creates patterns on the walls which can change with every turn. Home of the wind is how the Navajo Indians describe this mysterious canyon. A place of power, a fossilized hallucination. Utah is a land of endless horizons and blue skies, of canyons and deserts. With its striking Table Mountain, Monument Valley has become a famous natural landmark of the USA. This striking landscape has been made famous due to the American film industry. Numerous famous Western classics were filmed against this superb natural backdrop. This reddish-colored landscape is part of a large Navajo reservation. A number of Indians continue to live in this magnificent, almost surreal landscape that their ancient ancestors also inhabited, in the shade of the proud and fascinating mesas. For millions of years, powerful erosion has created the most amazing rock formations. So many of the rock needles have been given some quite imaginative names. The scant, craggy landscape seems to be part of a strange and mysterious world. Even the Paiute Indians were afraid of this region's apparent supernatural powers. These majestic rock formations are all that remains of a layer of rock that once covered the entire area of today's Monument Valley. The Zion National Park has much for those interested in natural history and geology, as some traces of human habitation have been discovered here. Several of the park's archaeological sites indicate that man inhabited this region more than 2,000 years ago. There's a good choice of paths and trails that make it ideal hiking terrain for one and all. The Zion Canyon Narrows is a particularly impressive area. Over millions of years, the overwhelming power of water has driven the region's torrential rivers and natural watercourses deeper and deeper into the rock strata. water plunges down in magnificent cascades and terminates in a small stream that flows from Heaps Canyon and transforms the rocks into a breathtaking work of art. The view of the magnificent rock landscape of Bryce Canyon is truly magnificent. Since the first white settlers arrived in the canyon, man has striven to find suitable words to describe the awesome beauty of this stone landscape. Those who first came here, such as Mormon Ebenezer Bryce, were overwhelmed by the vast canyon and its bizarre scenery. Technically, this chasm is not really a canyon at all, because the natural amphitheaters of this region were not carved into the rock by a river, but were in reality created by the movement of the earth. What Mecca is to the Muslims and Rome to the Catholics is what Salt Lake City is to the Mormons. It's also the capital of the U.S. federal state of Utah. This prosperous city also contains many of those of other faiths, but the highly influential Mormon Church makes most of the political decisions in this region. It's decorated with flowers and contains the most important sacred buildings of the Mormon community, such as the Salt Lake Temple, the Tabernacle, and the Conference Center. A huge bronze statue commemorates the founder of the settlement and the first governor of Utah, Brigham Young. After a long journey, he arrived here with the first pioneers. Joseph Smith and his close followers were missionaries in a religion that today has 9 million members. The administrative headquarters of the worldwide active Mormon Church is, at 128 meters high, the city's tallest building. Its finances are strictly regulated. Each member must contribute 1/10 of their income. The Council of the 12 Apostles rules like a multinational concern. Although quite recent, the history of the city is nevertheless fascinating. When the first pioneers arrived, they first irrigated the fields in order that they could harvest food to survive. From Temple Square, they created an extensive network of roads, and polygamy was rife as the Mormon religion permitted marriage to more than one partner. Beehive House was once the residence of Brigham Young, who lived here with his family. It was also the official seat of the governor. One of the city's most recent building complexes is the Salt Palace Complex, with an arena and art center. The Promised Land was established and a settlement created within the desert. Colorado is the heart of the Rocky Mountains, a land of remote valleys and high mountains. The mighty rocks of the Mesa Verde National Park appear in all their majestic glory. Unlike most of the other nature parks in the USA, here it is not only the natural landscape that's protected, but also the remains of an early Native American Indian culture. The splendor of the Mesa Verde, or Green Table, is well described by its name. The seemingly endless landscape reveals a wide and idyllic plain. Despite the rocks, the terrain of the Mesa Verde is quite fertile, and for several centuries the climate has been good to the Anasazi Indians. The harmonious relationship between the early inhabitants of these canyons and nature can still be relived at these marvelous and fascinating sites. The unique scenery of the distant rock landscape is a captivating sight and one that stimulates the imagination. Some of the dwellings that were built into the cliffs by the Anasazi Indians have been named Cliff Palace. The dwellings were discovered in 1888 by cowboys who must have been amazed when they stumbled across these ancient and magnificent structures. During the 6th century, the Anasazi began to settle on the Mesa Verde Plateau, where they lived in caves and simple wooden shelters. They began by building their dwellings from loam bricks until, in the latter part of the 12th century, they moved into these cliff dwellings. It's not known why the Anasazi settled here. Denver is the capital of Colorado. It's located on a sunny high plateau, 1,600 meters above sea level, on the edge of the Rocky Mountains. The TV series Denver Clan made this city of golden oil world famous, a place of tall glass towers and elegant city villas. In its center is a building of red sandstone, the Brown Palace Hotel. Since 1892, one of the USA's greatest hotels. Colorado's state capital, located on a hill in the center of the city, crowned by a 76-meter-high golden cupola. No expense was spared for its furnishings, a symbol of the riches gained from the local surroundings. Directly in front of the Capitol is Civic Center Park. Laid out in classic style, in summer it's the pleasantly shady heart of Denver and surrounded by the state's administrative buildings. The 16th Street Mall is the city's pride, a splendid avenue that boasts the longest pedestrianized area in the USA, plus a free bus service. A shopper's paradise. Close to the mall is Larimer Square and the city's historic birthplace, a fine example of restoration. The History Museum features Denver's dramatic past. In 1858, gold was discovered at Cherry Creek and the gold rush began. The Indians were forced out, and the mineral resources, as well as a new railroad network, created an explosion in the population. Denver became a boomtown. Colorado is the state of the Rocky Mountains, a huge mountain range that is the backbone and water divide of the American continent. It extends from Canada almost to as far as Mexico. The mountain peaks are 4,000 meters above sea level, and it was the glaciers of the Ice Age that created this overwhelming mountain landscape. Compared to the European Alps, these mountains are situated further south, almost adjacent to Spain, and that's why they're covered with trees at high altitude. Waterfalls such as the Alberta Fall indicate the power of nature that created this imposing landscape. The Rockies formed during the Ice Age that began around 500,000 years ago, when the riverbeds filled with mighty glaciers. In 1859, Joel Estes and his son Milton explored for the first time this fascinating mountain world. They were overwhelmed by its natural beauty and huge glacial rivers. A year later, they returned with their entire family and settled here. Enos Mills and colleagues began to conserve the area. In 1915, it became America's 10th national park. The Rocky Mountains separate the North American continent into two climatically different regions, the humid east and the arid west. A landscape that couldn't be more diverse, the embodiment of adventure in natural surroundings. Set within the Black Hills in the state of South Dakota is one of the most famous landmarks in the USA, the Mount Rushmore National Memorial. Here, 4 monumental portraits of the most famous American presidents have been carved into the granite and symbolize a kind of spectacular tribute to democracy. Since their unveiling in 1941, the huge faces of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln have created a good deal of interest. $2.5 million visitors travel to Mount Rushmore each year in order to gaze at the USA's 4 legendary presidents. The sculptor of this impressive monument, Gutzon Borglum, gained much acclaim due to his creation. The first image to be created was that of George Washington. Although incomplete, work on the Mount Rushmore monument continued for 14 years, until Borglum's death. After his death, his son attempted to raise the money for completion of the monument, but his efforts proved to be in vain. Due to their incomplete nature, it looks as though the 4 18-meter-high faces are actually emerging from the rock itself. "25 kilometers southwest of Mount Rushmore, another stone image towers up from the landscape, the Crazy Horse Memorial. Constructed in 1947, it commemorates the famous chief of the Oglala Sioux. Its dimensions are even larger than those of Mount Rushmore. When completed, the Crazy Horse Memorial will be 195 meters long and 172 meters high, a stone giant. The sculptor of the Crazy Horse Memorial is also remembered here, Korczak Zielkowski, a good friend of the Indians who died in 1982. The Badlands is a wild and rugged rock landscape. The Badlands was given its name by the Indians due to the inhospitable terrain. They felt threatened by it. "37 million years of wind, rain and snow transformed this highland into a natural work of art that was inaugurated as a national park in 1978. another reality shaped by the forces of nature. Wyoming is America's Wild West. Cheyenne is the state's most populated city. When the railroad was constructed in 1860, this hell-like settlement at the end of the railroad became an important trading center. The buildings still resemble those inhabited by the first settlers. Due to Cheyenne's favorable location at the junction of two important highways and two main railway lines, several banks and businesses are to be found here. The many cowboys and railroad workers of bygone times had to spend their hard-earned cash somewhere, and the city duly obliged. The city is proud of its railroad past, so the Big Boy is a well-cared-for monument. This iron monster once crossed the large plains of the Wyoming Basin. It efficiently transported cattle to distant places. Both city and state are proud of their cowboy past, as indicated by the huge boots of Cheyenne Depot Plaza. The small town of Cody derived its name from its famous son, William Frederick Cody, who was better known as Buffalo Bill, a colonel and army scout. Buffalo Bill was the embodiment of the myths and legends of the old Wild West. Cody features the history of the Wild West and is full of atmosphere. But what would Cody be without the great Wild West spectacle that has taken place each summer's evening for the past 50 years? The Buffalo Bill Rodeo. Cowboys and would-be tough guys demonstrate how wild Mustangs are broken in. When the cowboys are dismounted, they take their lasso and capture the horse again. The cowboy who remains in the saddle the longest is the winner. However, even for these tough guys, it's often a painful way to demonstrate their manhood. Cody is today the rodeo metropolis of the world. William Buffalo Bill Cody was one of the first to exploit tourism in this area. His Wild West show made him the most famous man in North America, and his name attracted crowds in their thousands. The people admired the courage of the cowboys and their flamboyant lifestyle. Indeed, even members of the European aristocracy, prominent politicians and wealthy tycoons came to the shows. Buffalo Bill knew exactly what the public wanted. He was and is a great hero for the people of Cody. His dream of freedom and adventure still lives on in this daily rodeo show. The impressive white water of the Old Faithful Geysers has for more than a century been the proud and unique landmark of the oldest national park in the United States, Yellowstone. The volcanic history of this fascinating region began around 50 million years ago with the emergence of the Absaroka Mountains. These are huge masses of lava beneath the Earth's surface. Those who first came here must have been taken aback by the steaming hot water pools and geysers that they encountered. And even the local Indians avoided the mysterious springs. Thus, it was the white settlers of North America who discovered this geothermal area. They traveled into the remote Yellowstone region at the beginning of the 19th century. The Sinter Terraces are the main feature of Mammoth Hot Springs. The warm water that emerges from the hot springs is rich in lime and minerals that spill over the terraces. The varied temperatures in the pools create a fantastic variety of color. In the various seasons, they change their color from blue to green and red. The Yellowstone National Park is a primeval paradise that was first discovered in 1871 during the Hayden expedition. As in former times, the roots of the first pioneers still bring visitors into the far west. Through overwhelming mountain scenery with magnificent views, wild west towns, buffalo prairies, and vast ranches. Oh yes, America's Wild West is still wild.